The billionaire Arman Khanna had made his fortune decoding difficult problems, from financial markets to satellite communications, but on a quiet autumn afternoon in the mountains of Himachal, he found himself staring at something he could not decode at all. A single sheet of parchment, covered in a language so old and peculiar that every expert he hired had thrown their hands up in frustration. The parchment had been discovered inside a collapsed monastery wall during one of Arman's funded archaeological projects, and early testing suggested it might predate most known Himalayan scripts. The symbols were fluid, looping like flowing water, yet sharp at the ends like tiny daggers. Linguists from Oxford, Harvard, Delhi University, none could decipher it. But Arman hated giving up. He carried the parchment everywhere, even today as he sat inside a tiny roadside dhaba, sipping chai while staring at the indecipherable markings. A soft voice interrupted him. "Sir, more chai." Arman looked up to see a young waitress, maybe 20, with a calm face and bright eyes that seemed to notice everything. Her name tag read Mira. He nodded, and she gently poured more chai into his cup. As she set the kettle down, her gaze drifted to the parchment. "May I see?" she asked politely. Arman raised an eyebrow. "You like old languages?" "Sometimes," she said with a shy smile. "I study things in my free time." He handed it over, expecting nothing, but Mira's eyes widened the moment she saw the script. She traced her fingers above the symbols, not touching the ancient ink, and whispered, This looks like the old water song script." Arman blinked. Water song. He had never even heard of it, and he had read hundreds of research papers on obscure scripts. "You know this language?" "Not fully," she said quickly. "But I learned some patterns. My grandmother taught me stories using a related dialect before she passed away." She leaned closer to the parchment, her eyes scanning rapidly. To Arman's amazement, she began softly speaking sounds, fluid, melodious, almost musical. The symbols seemed to come alive as she read them. "Can you translate it?" Arman asked, trying, and failing, to keep his voice steady. Mira hesitated. "Maybe, but slowly. It's very old." "Please," Arman insisted. "Take your time. I'll pay you whatever you want." She shook her head. "I don't want money. I just like puzzles." And so, right there in that humble dhaba, while people ate parathas and trucks rumbled by outside, an extraordinary decoding began. Mira read line after line, her voice steady, her brows furrowing in concentration. Arman recorded everything. The parchment, it turned out, was not just ancient writing. It was a message, almost like a poem, almost like a coded warning. It spoke of a hidden valley, a place where the river flows in two directions at once, guarded by the Watchers of Silence. It described rare herbs, luminous moss, and a mineral said to store the heat of sunlight for centuries. Arman realized this wasn't mythology, this was a map. A real map. "Do you understand what this means?" he whispered. Mira's calm expression didn't change. "That you've been looking in the wrong direction," she said. "The valley isn't north, it's west, beyond the Thunder Cliffs." Arman stared at her. For months his teams had excavated the northern ranges. The western cliffs were considered inaccessible. "How do you know this?" "Because," she said simply, "my grandmother used to hum a song about this valley. She said our ancestors came from there." Arman nearly choked on his chai. "Your ancestors?" She said. "We come from a line of storytellers who guarded the water song language. But I thought they were just fairy tales." She looked down at the parchment again. "Now I'm not so sure." Arman felt a strange mixture of awe and disbelief. This young waitress, this quiet girl who served chai and wiped down tables, might be the only living person who could read the script that had baffled the world's brightest scholars. "Mira," he said slowly, "I want you on my research team. Name your salary, anything." She looked genuinely confused. "Why would you want me? I only know stories." "Stories," Arman said, "are the beginning of every truth humanity has ever uncovered." For the first time, Mira's expression softened with warmth. But she shook her head. "I can't leave. My mother is ill. I work here to support her." Arman leaned forward. "Then I'll move the entire expedition here. I'll fund your mother's treatment. Whatever you need." Mira stared at him in shock. She had never imagined a billionaire would make such promises to her. But Arman wasn't joking. For the next 3 days, he brought his scientists, archaeologists, and linguists to the dhaba. And to their absolute astonishment, this waitress guided them through the ancient script with ease they could only dream of. Word spread through academic circles like wildfire. Some doubted, some mocked, but those who came in person left humbled. Mira didn't just have a gift. She was a linguistic prodigy, one whose mind saw patterns the way a musician hears harmonies where others hear noise. Soon, the deciphered map led the team westward, towards the Thunder Cliffs. Mira traveled with them for the first time in her life, clutching the stories her grandmother had sung to her as a child. And when they found the valley, because they did find it, hidden behind a waterfall that split in two directions exactly as described, Armin felt tears in his eyes. The valley shimmered with rare minerals, glowing plants, and an ecosystem untouched by time. It was the discovery of the century, and it had only been possible because of Mira. Standing at the valley's entrance, Armin turned to her. "You're not a waitress," he said. "You're a genius." Mira smiled softly. "I'm just someone who listened to her grandmother." "No," Armin replied, "you're someone who changed the world." And from that moment onward, everything in her life transformed, not because a billionaire discovered her, but because she discovered herself and the ancient legacy waiting inside her mind all along.